This is Soccer 101 with Moon and Rocchio.
Welcome back to Soccer 101, a little midweek episode here. I am Moon. That is Matt Rocchio, and we got some exciting stuff to cover. Let's jump right into it. So last week, I think while we were recording the episode, or in between when we finished hitting record and posted the episode, we were talking about Joe Aquini probably going to Como. Was it 1907?
Yeah, I believe so.
Over by Lake Como in Italy, and we were checking out the stadium, and we were like, holy cow, look at these views. You got the lake, you got the mountain, you got George Clooney looking out of his window watching your play. And sure enough, yes, Joe Aquini goes to Como 1907. We wish him well. I know, I think it was like the next day or maybe that day that the team was posting socials, just thanking Joe Aquini for all his hard work, all of his good his good play here. Obviously had a solid couple handfuls of goals last year, made for some really exciting play. And
that's why I had to wear my Fiorentina jersey, because next year, hopefully Como 1907 gets promotion. They're playing in Serie A next year, potentially against Fiorentina from Florence. My parents got this when they went on a trip to Italy, so thank you to them.
Yeah, that's
my first ever soccer jersey. Other than my City jersey, my first ever European jersey, my first ever soccer jersey was a City jersey. And I added this to it, so I thought if we're going to talk about Niko, I got to throw on the Fiorentina.
Yeah, that's pretty sick, dude. And they have they've always had such a cool purple, and that badge is so sick. Yes. Fiorentina's got it going on.
So Simone, get Niko on the pitch. He didn't play his first game at Como, so get him on the pitch. Let's see some Serie A for Niko next year.
Yeah, dude, and that's one of the things, man. And maybe it's like a St. Louis thing. Maybe it's just like an old school sports thing. Like when somebody comes and you kind of fall in love with them, or you like their play, or they fit well in the town, in the team, in the city, whatever it is, and they go elsewhere, you kind of like you're rooting for them, as long as they're not going to the Cubs or going to the Patriots or somebody, or for me Liverpool. I'm going to be rooting for anybody that comes through here. So I'm excited if they do get promoted and get into Serie A. How cool is that for Joe Aquini playing over there, man? That's dream come true stuff, and hopefully he gets a ton of minutes, a ton of experience, especially up in that upper echelon league, and maybe comes back through the MLS. I'd love to see the guy again. Thanks for everything, Joe Aquini. I know it was just a single season, but he made that first season.
Absolutely.
He was a big part of making that first season really exciting. He had exciting play. Dude's really fast. Needs to stay off the ground, like maybe pop back up a little faster here and there for my taste. But man, I love that guy. We had him on Soccer 101 when Michelle was still co-hosting with me, and he was a delight, man. What a wonderful dude. Great interview. Super personable. Speaks like 15 languages. Like what a catch. What a catch, man.
He's insane. Yeah, he's fantastic. We're gonna miss Niko, but they got some talent coming up, and hopefully they can step up and replace those 10 goals.
Yeah, so let's move into real quick just what we have that's not leaving, and that is Coach Bradley Carnell. He has extended, I think it was announced yesterday, he has extended his contract, which is lovely news. All things that we kind of expected. I mean, halfway through the season last year, it's like, okay, this is our guy. He's going to be here for quite some time. He has agreed on a new contract extension. He was the 2023 Sigi Schmid Coach of the Year finalist in City SC's inaugural season. That's big. Here's a quote from Giuliani. It's, we're thrilled to be able to extend Bradley's contract and keep him and his family here with us in St. Louis. Now, I don't know the details of how many years they've locked him.
The reported details right now are 2025 through 2025. So it's a 2-year extension. The way that Tom Timmerman of the Post-Dispatch explained it is that this year's previous contract, will be replaced by this new contract. So it's essentially, I guess it's a 3-year deal, because the terms replace this year and then 2020, through 2020 to 2025. So yeah, the first year replaces this year, and the second year is through 2025 next year. So a 2-year extension for Carnell, that makes sense. They're tied to him now for a couple of years, and he earned it. And
yeah, I think
it makes sense. I mean, show him some love for what he did that first season, and give him and Lutz and now Diego, that runway to continue building this club.
Yeah, I think it all makes sense, and that's good for us, good for them. Also, St. Louis City 2 has announced that the club signed midfielder Juan Kuzain to a new one-year MLS Next Pro contract with a club option for 2025. So he returns to the squad after making 28 appearances in the 23 regular season. So another fellow that's staying around. But what else do we got going on? We also this was a big week for announcements. We had our first preseason match last week. We'll catch up with that in a minute. Single match tickets were announced that they will be available on February 6th. That's just a few days away. So if you don't have the season tickets and you're interested in single match tickets, make sure you're up on your link there. It's stlcitysc.com. That's exciting. What else we got, Rocchio?
Well, let's do this, I guess, go by the time chronologically, if you will, because they were in Florida and they had one friendly. They were supposed to have two, but we talked about the schedule change. So there was just one friendly. Ended up being a 2-2 tie with Nashville. Not a lot of things you're going to be able to pull from a friendly. And again, I wasn't able to watch the game either. Not a lot of people were. And if you were able to watch the game, that's fantastic. Let us know what you thought of what you saw. What I do know, though, is that Celio Thorisson set up the first goal for St. Louis City SC, which was later in the second half. They were down 2-0 early in the second after being down 1-0 at half. Vasilev scored the first goal on an assist from Celio Thorisson, and the second goal was an Adeniran goal on an assist from Rocc Thorisson. So, I mean, I think the assisters are big for me.
Yeah, for sure.
That it's Celio Thorisson and Rocc Thorisson. And before we jump into this, I actually want to throw it to a guy you already talked about, Diego Gigliani, and Luch Pfannenstiel, who on Wednesday this week spoke to the media. And going back to the Gioacchini sale, they got into kind of where the roster stands now with the Gioacchini sale, the fact that the European transfer windows are closing, what's going to happen with the roster. Is it going to stay the way it is, or are we going to see some changes? Again, this is Lutz and Diego Gigliani, courtesy of the Post-Dispatch.
Very happy with the squad we've got. We're very happy with the squad. We got the players in that we wanted in the positions that we wanted to reinforce. And with regards to Niko's exit, which was unplanned, and that, of course, we're very proud of him and think he's going to do great in Italy, and we wish him lots of success, hopefully a promotion so he can compete in Serie A. But on that one specifically is the only case where we are considering more what is the best thing to do. And right now, the view is that we are happy with the squad that we've got. We will see. As Lutz said, we've got several months to go. We're always looking at the market. We've always got lists for every position. So we will see.
I'm really glad to hear him say that, unplanned. Like, I mean, that was a big part of his sentence there. Unplanned exit for Niko. And I think what allows that to happen is two guys that you just mentioned that you've been talking about since we've been seeing them on the field. And that's Celio Thorisson and Thorisson. Like, dude, those have been your guys. You've been preaching on those dudes forever. And I think if Celio didn't have the back end of the season that he had and showed some of the confidence that he deserves the team to have in him, I don't think anybody's considering letting go of Niko. But I think because there's some depth and there was a lot of depth shown there, especially with speed up front, I think that's what made it much more comfortable and an option for the sale.
You're right, because if you have a price tag on a player and a team comes in, let's say above that price tag, even if they're coming above the price tag, there's still a legitimate question of what can we do if we get rid of this player, if we can't sign a new player, and the transfer windows are very odd. The fact is the European transfer windows are closed now, but they could technically still buy from a European team. But European teams aren't really likely to sell right now because they can't then buy a different player because their window's already closed. Right. So it's a really weird thing. So you never know when you're going to have players available. That's why Diego said we're always looking available, because there's different moves. So there's this calculus of, sure, we can get more than the player's worth, but what happens when he's gone? And having a Celio Thorisson, like you said, that second half he had, where he went from being a guy who could break down a defender to being a guy who could break down a defender and then make the crucial play after he beat the defender. That was the difference in his game from May to August. And you saw it especially in the playoff game. And I think, we've talked about how this team can grow. And, we're going to go to our second soundbite here, because I really think this is important. Can this team evolve? Can this team grow? And how important are guys like Celio and Rocc Thorisson? I want to talk more about those guys. But before we do, I want to go to this clip from Thursday morning. Bradley Carnell, newly signed to his extension, joined CBS Sports Galazzo Morning Footy for their show to talk about kind of his goals for this next season.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a look at the pathway that that we had over the last year, and building the foundation and ingraining your roots and what you believe in, and to get that all going up and running. Our players said it best through the last couple of months. They were like, we can grow on and we can step to that next level now. Now it's very easy to say, but it takes a lot to get to do it now. But the good thing is the foundations are built. We have an amazing facility. So everything that we've tried and tested, what worked, what didn't work, and now we can continue to evolve and grow and continue to be good at what we're good at, but still, what defines us and what can make us special and different. That's what we stand for first and foremost, is development of the community, development of our people, players and staff, and getting the best product out on the field. So we've done so much in such a short span of time, and we're a very ambitious group. We're very competitive, and I've seen it already on the pitch in the first few training days.
The big thing there for me, Moon, is continue to evolve and grow, continue to be good at what we're good at, but work on what defines us and makes us different. That evolve and grow is a big thing, because he talked about earlier in the clip, they didn't have it on Twitter, but you can go back and listen to the full podcast interview for Morning Footy. It's a great interview with both Berkey and with Carnell. And he talked about, I have this system that I've been learning, for so many years that I've been a student of. And we built that system, and then we got new players in. We said, okay, we got to make sure that we're changing the system and letting the system evolve with the players we're getting. And so having him acknowledge that, I think that's really important, because, again, he acknowledged it too. Breaking down in the final third, set defenses was a problem, and that's how they're going to need to get better this season. And I think right out of the gate, he's showing that he's got the mindset for it, and that's what they're attacking this year. And I just love that for Carnell right out of the gate.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously we had the coolest season ever, or the second coolest season ever last year, with that inaugural season. But all of us diehards that have been excited about this team coming here and getting it developed have been really thinking about, like, the first 2 to 5 years. Not only are they working with the players and the talents that they do have and really shaping what type of game they want to play, but they're also, like, trying to develop all the world famous squads, all the places that you're scared to go, no matter who is wearing the jersey, no matter who's on the field at that particular season. They all have, like, a soul, like, it may not be, like, as simple as some particular mantra or song, but they all have, like, a style of play. When you go here, you expect this. When you go here, you're up against this. And it's really exciting because from the get-go, there was a lot of talk about how the style of the play is going to reflect the kind of the soul of the city and all these different things. And it's going to be exciting to see how they evolve and grow, as they mentioned, with the players that we have, with the players that are leaving and coming in, but also at the same time finding that true, like, St. Louis City identity. That's one of the most thrilling things for me to watch as things unfold. Just because I'm a nerd that wants to watch all the all the back office stuff.
That's why the evolution of the team is kind of so interesting to me too, because you bring in new players, and we talked about it in the last episode. Thomas Totland, he's a big part of the bringing in the defense, but he's a guy who, according to the scouting reports, likes to get in on his off foot. That's not really something we've really seen from this team. How does that work in this scheme? How does a guy like Celio Thorisson, who excels in one-on-one, maybe against a set defense, not necessarily when things are going crazy in this transition style? Obviously he can excel there, but maybe he's better than your average player against a set defense. How do you utilize him when maybe he's not your out and out best player at that position? And they keep talking about how he is really he's a potential third attacker. When we talked about who's going to be the backup from Giacchini, Pompeu was one name. Rocchio Thorisson was another name. Lutz talked about, and this is a great job again by Tom Timmerman of the Post-Dispatch. Read all his articles; they're fantastic. And Lutz broke down about how Thorsson's an attacker. He's a striker. They're not thinking about him only as a winger. They're thinking about him as a winger because they have obviously some very strong, two top talents in Adeniran and Klaus as a striker, but they're thinking about Thorisson, and we talked about that last week. He's listed at 6'2". That tells me that, if he's got, that he's can play some striker. There's no doubt about that, especially if you're playing two and he's maybe your, second striker, if you want to call it that. So I really do think that the talent they have already is going to be able to replace Niko and Stroud And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. You have Nokvi, you have Pompeu. Alm will eventually get involved. He's injured right now. You have Indy Vasilev, who continues to be an extremely underrated player in this roster, I think. And you have Tomas Ostrak, who we've talked about a lot. And so I really do think they have great attacking players. And I agree with Diego. I see why he's so happy with this roster, because a big part of this game is constantly being able to develop young players. And we saw that last year with a guy like AZ Jackson or Keel Watts. And I think you're going to see that this year with Noki Thorson and Celio Pompeu. And I think it's going to make the attack even more deadly.
Yeah, man. I think we're going to need distribution. We need distributors. I said that at the beginning of the last year and all throughout the year. And I know, we had a couple.
That's the big thing you think they're lacking is distributors?
No. I'm just saying I think that's a focus. That's a focus that is going to be, because we have so many attacking options. We do have the tall fellers in the air. Dinaron, obviously. Dude, I'm just saying we need a solid midfield that's going to hold the ball when they need to hold the ball and distribute it like they should. And we lost too many 50-50 balls in the midfield.
Yeah.
In the long run. We got lucky. The ball bounced our way, and a lot of times it didn't cost us. But those are the kind of things, the unsung heroes in the midfield, the unsung distributors. And a lot of these guys that you're talking about are scoring goals, and we're looking to them for speed and striking the ball. And they've been good with assists. Celio with his assists, with limited minutes, and it's a big thing. But you know what I'm talking about. It's we need the Michael Carrick, we need the Herrera, we need the Gerard, we need the that sort of player that you can't take the ball from. But they're going to be there with some goals here and there, but they're just a solid distributor, because
Bradley Carnell laughs at possession time. Moon, come on now.
Yeah, it's not about possession. I'm not even talking about possession time, dude. I can play that game. I can play that, let the other guys have the ball, sort of thing. I like, and that's a fancy thing to move around game to game, depending on how the strategy of the other team is playing out on you. But like, you know what I'm talking about, man. Like those guys that you don't understand were like the linchpin of the wins, or the not losses, until they're gone, and then you go, oh my God, we have to have that in there, and I'm not saying it's a weak point. I'm saying that, like, if we shore that up and just have that super solid, dude, we are a phenomenally skilled team, and it's going to gel. And like I said, man, I'm most excited for this season in particular to not only watch how they shape the body of the team, the body on the field, but really the spirit of the club, the soul of the club. And having to do both of those jobs at once is one heck of a hard job that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And Carnell and Lutz and everybody have done a freaking perfect job so far. And this is going to be the year where it starts to become a bit more evident as to how they're melding the body of the squad and the spirit of the club.
Is that something you want the manager have in the sporting director, or however you want to title these guys? Is that something you want them worrying about, or do you just want them focusing on X's and O's on the field, hardcore scouting? I think that's more
it is
of an organic thing that I don't know if you can.
It is something I worry about. It's something that I think they should worry about. Yeah, totally. You know why? Because you don't want.
Isn't that the job of the fans and the front office behind the guys?
Listen to me.
Guys no. Tactics.
I understand that. Yeah, that's a huge part. But like some of the responsibility that goes into building the soul of a club for longevity. We are talking about Rams football here, okay? Like when they came, and it was within the first couple years, everything was just incredible, and we had fans out the wazoo, man. We were supporting it.
But here's the thing, though, Moon. I'm glad you said that, though. But what broke that? Was it bad coaching, or was it a problem higher up?
Yeah, maybe higher up. But listen, like when they first came over, was there a spirit of the club? Was there a spirit of the team and the community and all that together? It was just football, and it was great football. And what happened after the great football wasn't there? People freaking left, dude. The worst thing that could happen for this club is it does so well in the first 2 seasons, doesn't build a really meshing soul with this community. And when things aren't great, because let's face it, like
you didn't see a mesh community last year.
I totally did.
I'm not saying they can rest on their laurels at this point. I'm saying last year, the Carnell worried about on the field and then the front office and people like Matt Seebeck and obviously Carolyn Kindle and all these people said, here's every resource possible. Make sure we give the city every chance they can to love this team, and this team every chance they can to love this city. And I think they did that. And I think, I'm not saying they rest on their laurels. I'm saying if they do what they did last year, if it's a similar amount of output from them,
yes,
keep going, baby. You guys are killing it.
Yes, I understand, and I totally agree with you. But we're all super drunk, dude. We're all super drunk on how badass
Hopium,
last
baby.
season was.
Hopium.
Like, dude, we are
Hopium.
dancing. Woo! Life is great. Like, I mean, it is. And listen, I'm all for it. It's freaking great. I'm not saying having an incredible season last year was a bad thing for us. I'm just saying, you get, as long as what I'm saying to answer your initial question is, yes, I do think the very first coach and the very first, GM or sporting director, or however you would like to view it, coming into a squad, especially building it in a town like this, where we are typically behind the times, we're a bit more old fashioned, and we're a bit more like dug in with our home pride. I mean, look at us all. We're all wearing like STL shirts, like we bought them at the airport. Like I've never been to a city where I've seen people looking like tourists in their own town. And that is how this city is built. Like, let's be self-aware, St. Louis. Come on, man. I'm born and bred here too. I love it. This is why I live here and I raise my kids here, because I love it here. But let's admit who we are. And we're unique folks. And that's why this is such an incredible, unique market when it comes down to our TV personalities or our radio people or our catchers that, gave us 20 years of incredible baseball, and the guy can't even relax for a year and a half down in his home country, and we want him back. We're like, why get him back here? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're very possessive, we're very intense, but if it's not built on something that's like truly weaved into like representing who we are, we can lose interest. And I'm not saying we're going to do that. And I don't think that's really possible now. All I'm saying is, to answer your question, is that on the shoulders of the first coach and the first, pardon me, sporting director? Yeah, I think it is. I think they did a perfect job. I think the ownership group did a perfect job. I mean, dude, how cool is it that they're from St. Louis? It's a heck of a story with the father and the cars and all this kind of stuff. Like, dude, it's amazing.
And that's my thing. I don't want to turn this into a different argument about something that happened 7 years ago, but I do want to say that when we talk about St. Louis and the history of fandom here, and if you're going to use that as an example, this city will put up with a lot. I mean, the base helped, and again, it's hard to use that example because what happens if 99 doesn't happen? But still, St. Louis came out last year, and I think this city would be able to handle this team not being immediately great again. It would suck. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm saying they laid down such an incredible base, and the outreach from this team is so incredible. And I think St. Louis will show up pretty much no matter what, as long as they feel like the product they're getting is something that they should be paying for. And that's what happens with bad teams when you get to bad and you get in situations where no one's going, is when you don't feel like you're being valued as a customer, because that's what you are in sports. We sometimes like to forget it, but you're a customer in a lot of ways. And I know soccer people hate looking at it that way, but that's the fact of the matter. That's why we put out team valuations, why those rankings matter. Congratulations on City, by the way. You guys did fantastic. And so I just think that, I want, the big thing for me is, just they killed it. When we talk about every hole they had going into the season and every contingency plan, we're talking about Thorisson, and that was a transfer that was made 6 months ago that's going to pay off now. And it wasn't necessarily planned, but, you make rainy day plans in a way, and building and again, working hard creates your own luck in a lot of ways. And I just think, maybe I'm the one who's too up on the hopium. I think maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm just too up on the hopium. My thing is that's a Chris Kerber term, by the way, and it's very apt for Blues right now. But we're gonna use it here because, like you said, we're a little loosey goosey right now. But there's things to criticize, but I'm looking for them, and I'm having trouble finding them.
Oh yeah, dude,
they're killing it.
I'm not. Listen. First of all, I hope I didn't represent like.
No,
or
I don't think
I
you
hope I
did.
did. I hope I didn't display worry because I'm truly really not worried. I was, and I'm not a skeptic. I'm just I'm cautionary. I'm
That's
cautious.
good.
I'm
I think that's
cautious.
fair.
But to be honest, like
We do.
I'm thrilled about everything that's happened, and I have total faith. I hope I didn't display any worry there. That's not true worry.
No,
I'm
I
just
need to be pulled down a little bit, Moon. I mean, like you said, I'm a
No, I'm
little.
not trying to.
I got
Oh
a big
no,
head.
I'm
There's
not.
a lot
I'm
of
not a
air in
pull
there.
down. No, I'm not a pull down guy. I'm a pump up guy. And what I'm saying is, I was just answering your question on whether I think it's important,
No, that's fair.
or if it's on the shoulders of the GM and the coach and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff about what product they're putting on the field. Because, dude, I'm a Manchester United guy, and Sir Alex Ferguson he's still my guy,
Yeah,
and
it's
like
just
and
it's interesting.
and he represents, or I'm sorry, what he insisted on the field product being and the locker room product being, still carries over into a squad that has been so far removed from him and success and all that in recent years. But it still represents, if you ask like United fans, like it's the soul of the squad, even if they're not doing well, if they're playing that brand of football, we're happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what we're expecting. And what that's what I mean by like the soul of the squad.
And
And
that's interesting to me because I think it's interesting that we, as you say correctly, I mean, you're not wrong. People impose like the culture in that geographical area. They impose it onto the sports teams.
yeah, for sure.
And it's interesting, like you say, it's weird when the things don't match up. Like it's weird in my head too, if we're talking football, American football. It's weird if like the Pittsburgh Steelers started going 5 wide and throwing the ball every play. That would feel very odd. And there's nothing against it. It's there's a lot of teams that do it, but man, it would feel kind of weird. And I kind of see what you're saying. You're not wrong, but it is kind of weird that we do that. And you're right. What kind of team can you build in St. Louis to where it will connect with the fans? And I think right out of the gate, the pressing strategy 100% did that. And I wonder, and so I think you're right. The blue collar aspect is also something that always needs to be there. I think it's why you hear people never not talking about the Cardinal way, or the fact that St. Louis doesn't love a gritty gutty white guy playing second base. There's just these things that just work, and you're 100% right about it. Even if I find it a little odd, I can't explain it, and I don't disagree with it. I just think sometimes it's a little odd, but I'm never going to defeat it. I'm never going to win this argument, and I understand that.
Yeah, and those days are kind of going out. The business overall is just changing everything. Money is changing everything. You're not going to have. I mean, like, dude, you go back to if you want to do basketball instead of football or baseball. It's Lakers and Celtics. Like that whole rivalry was like Boston Celtic, grimy blue collar against these LA people.
Flash Showtime.
You know what I'm saying?
Or can you imagine the Pistons like winning a championship with like a really like highfalutin offense? It wouldn't work.
That's what I'm saying. They were dirty, grimy, tattooed, crazy people. That's and it was culture versus culture versus culture, and that's what made that era so cool. I know that era's dead, but we can at least like there's like some like cornerstone principles of it that still apply and are still pretty cool, and I think we represented it pretty well last year. But I do think that does share the burden on the shoulders of the people that are pulling the strings on who's on the field.
You're absolutely right. Really quickly, I want to get back to some of the football stuff because there were some great quotes that came out of the interviews this week with the Carnell extension, with Lutz talking to the media, with Diego. One of the big things we talked about them improving on the defensive side, and this really jumped out to me. This was from Lutz Pfannenstiel, on Wednesday, talking about the defense and the moves they made over the offseason. Quote unquote, we made an analysis towards the end of the season where we were pretty clear what areas we wanted to strengthen the squad, where we want to get better, where we see room for improvement. And that was the major job over the whole break. That's what we worked on. So we got the 3 positions we had to have. We filled them. There's always other positions you'd like to have, but you don't necessarily need them. So for us, it was the first focus on that, and that was the important part of the window. So we got the job done, and now it's time to screen the market, see what's happening. We can certainly make 3 green ticks on that 3 major positions. Of course, he's talking about the 2 fullbacks they got, and then Chris Durkin, the move for the center back or the center midi in the trade. So like we were talking about on the previous podcast, checking off with green ticks, exactly as Lutz put it. They did that with the defense. You've heard them pumping up Celio. and Rocchio Thorisson. One thing I did want to pull from another great Tom Timmerman article, these quotes from Celio, because he understands that, there's 4,000 minutes going out from Niko and Jared Stroud. So there's a lot of minutes there. How many can he step up and capture? His big thing, and I love this, was he said, my thing is to create plays, to score goals, create goals and assists. And he talked about how the Brazilian, that improvisational Brazilian thing that's just in him. He says, I think we're born with it. And you see that. And I love hearing those quotes from Celio, and watching him grow last year was really special. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the episode, but really I just want to get back to that, because I think if you had a big question going in to the rest of training camp, it would be how are the fullbacks going to sink in, and what's going to happen with the wing positions, the attacking forward positions, the position where Niko is no longer there. And I think Celio and Thorisson right now are your answer to that second question.
Dude, and you brought up another thing. It's the culture in the ball. It's the culture in Brazilian football. You know what I mean? Or the culture in French football, or the culture in Argentinian soccer. And it does matter. And I'm not saying the MLS should or could emulate the EPL or any of that kind of stuff. But if you think about some of those squads were legitimately built around a culture of the ball. And I'm saying, like, some of them were Brazilian heavy. Arsenal was French heavy for decades. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they played Frenchy ball. It was Wenger's vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't tell me that Klopp hasn't brought that German ball to Liverpool. Like, not, obviously there's not a lot of German cats over there, but like there was still a lot of that.
He was gegenpressing over, and he was gegenpressing in England. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's culture ball, and I don't see why it couldn't happen, at least in some sort of tone here in the States, in the league, and in St. Louis. It's going to be interesting to see how that fits with I mean, we played fast, creative ball, so maybe it is more of a Brazilian, South American sort of feel.
I think it's still a lot of German with a little soupçon of Brazilian flair in there from Pompeu. And the other big thing is getting the, because I really think I'm glad you brought up this like, bringing certain cultures to your team, because I do want to point out something that's fascinating, because in the articles, Lutz was talking, in his interview, Lutz was talking about how, they like the summer transfer window better because of the European teams. Obviously, that's their big transfer window in the European. That's their days. That's their 2 months off. There's more players available, and teams are more willing to sell them. Okay, that jumps out to me as something so fascinating, because let's go back a few years ago to when Atlanta joins the MLS, and they hit the ground running with a lot of South American players.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: City has gotten a couple South American players. Obviously, a guy like Celio's Brazilian. But here's the thing: the fact that City hit the ground running as an MLS team and has been pulling consistently from Europe, I just want to say that's impressive. Like, the fact that Lutz is, and again, being Lutz Pfannenstiel and having so many connections across all the leagues he's played, and so many of them being European, that's going to matter. But nonetheless, the fact that they came in right off the bat, and now it's year 2, and he's talking about, like, well, we're not really going to do a lot of business in this window. We're talking about the summer window because we're dealing with Europe for the most part. I'm not saying we're not dealing with South America, and maybe I'm looking too much into this. For me, I remember thinking when Atlanta did that when St. Louis got a team, that the best option was going to be to replicate that by going and picking up a bunch of Argentinians and Brazilians and Ecuadorians and Uruguayans and playing upbeat soccer with a bunch of South American players, because the values are a little bit off. You can get them for a little bit cheaper than you can the European players. And
you just described Miami.
Exactly. You're not wrong, but those are big name South American players. I was thinking of the smaller ones like the Thiago Almeidas that the Jose Martinez that Atlanta was going with. And they said, no, we're gonna pick and choose the players we want from Germany and Belgium and a lot of
Denmark
guys and Denmark and Sweden and Iceland, and honestly they're not pulling huge English or Spanish or French contracts. It's just interesting to me that instead of it being a pillaging of South America, it's been Northern Europe for the most part, and I'm down with it.
I'm sure I thought about that last year, but I really I kind of lost that. I kind of lost that reality. But yeah, you're right. I mean, whoops, conversation had to be cut off there because we had a little bit of technical difficulties with the fancy cameras, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's just wrap it up. We've had a great conversation for over a half hour now, and I got to go walk the dog. So let's talk about preseason. We had that match on the 26th with Nashville, and then we are moving to California. Match 3, well, technically match 3. LA Galaxy is February 3rd, 3 p.m. You can stream that in the City app. I don't think there's any other way to really watch that, right?
No, I mean you can go watch the game, but you can stream it on the City app.
Just the app. Match 4 then is LAFC, February 7th at the Coachella Invitational, and then match 5 is New York Red Bulls, February 10th at the Coachella Invitational. Then they come on back on the 12th to St. Louis, and then what happens on the 15th there, Rocchio?
On the 15th, they have a closed door friendly versus Louisville City. They're hosting that one, so maybe that one they're doing their last kind of tune-ups before Houston comes in just 5 days later. So, I mean, we're on it now. We're 19 days away. I'm pretty sure there is a way to stream those matches for the Coachella Invitational matches. I guess they're still calling them match 4 and 5, even though it's match 3 and 4. So February 7th and February 10th, LAFC and New York Red Bulls. I believe there's a way to stream those Coachella Invitational matches. So if you can, do, because that'll be a lot of fun. Again, this team's a lot of fun. It's very exciting. The new players are getting involved. And I think the bigger thing, like we already talked about, is some players who have been here for only a short time are going to be even more involved than they were at the end of the season. Dewyer just got here. Carnell said, I think Dewyer got here on Wednesday to work with the team for the first time. So, I mean, there are a lot of things are going to be getting tied in. A lot of things could change between now and when you actually see them in 19 days on February 20th facing off against Houston.
Hey, what does closed door friendly mean? No tickets sold?
No tickets, and I believe no media.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, you're probably your final tune-up. You're probably your final match day 11 that you want to go against Houston. You don't want it to leak out in case you're changing anything, in case you're playing Celio Thorisson and they didn't see it coming. Maybe you're going to use that back 5 that you used in the preseason game, or the friendly, I should say, because it's soccer. By the way, the back five thing, I don't know if it's going to be real. It seemed like it might have just been a numbers thing.
So they're playing a full scrimmage, and we'll hear the result later.
Yeah, and it's Louisville City too. So I mean, it's I don't know how much you can take away from it.
All right, well, let's wrap that up. I'm excited to get back into the season. It is upon us. I mean, obviously, preseason play has already gone on. We got a lot to talk about every single time we close up a podcast. We read 2 more articles that just broke. So I'm sure there'll be more news, and we will catch you up next week on it. Thank you for joining us here at Soccer 101. It is a St. Louis City SC podcast with a couple of nerds that just freaking love sports and arguing with each other about the hopium that we're all drunk on.
Here we go.
I am Moon. That is Matt Rocchio. And thanks for joining with us, and we will see you next time. Until then, it's a go!